Welcome to Wealth Matters podcast. I have with me Ira Zlotowitz. He's an industry innovator who has helped to define the commercial real estate profession, earning such accolades as inclusion among Crain's New York businesses 40 under 40. How are you are Ira?
I'm doing great. How are you? Thank you.
Oh, absolutely. Hope I was able to introduce and I did not butcher your name.
Yeah, it's good. It's a common problem, so I tell people just call me Ira. It's easy.
Yeah. It's IRA, right?
Yeah, it's all about the money.
Yes, exactly. So Ira has been working in the commercial industry for a while. He started his career at Meridian Capital, and built the business from cold calling to complete business model, trained large teams of callers, and then he started his own company, Eastern Union. Right, Ira?
Yep.
So that's awesome. Did I forget anything, Ira? Feel free to chime
No,
in.
I focus on the present and the future. You know,
Awesome.
I learn from the past, but I focus on the present and the future. So
That is so important. We are just already throwing golden nuggets right here,
right.
and we haven't started. So that's awesome. So tell us something interesting about yourself.
So I'm an Orthodox Jew. That might not be so interesting, but what is interesting is that people who see me, they say, "Ira, do you ever sleep?" I'm responding to emails day and night. And what's interesting, as an Orthodox Jew, you are not able to use technology on the Sabbath. So from sundown on Friday until sundown on Saturday is the Sabbath. I do not touch my cell phone.
Oh, wow.
No technology. So there's 25 hours it works out to. I can be in the middle of a deal. It doesn't make a difference. The phone gets off and it's done. From sunset to sunset.
That's amazing. Yeah, I don't think I can do that. I do want to go on a yoga retreat or the meditation retreat. One of my friends did, and like 4 days, nothing allowed. And
Yeah.
he said it was an eye opener, right? Because then you are able to see inside, right? What's happening with your mind, with your body.
So I do that. I do that 1 day a week for 52 weeks a year.
That's amazing. Yeah, I don't know how you did it.
Yeah.
Hey, so why did you choose this career path?
So it's not so much that I chose it; it chose me. I was thinking about
Okay.
opening up a company when I was younger, and my dad had a friend in the real estate business and said, "Hey, why don't you go meet him?" I met him, and I liked the industry, and I stayed in it since then. So
That's
it's a
great.
very simple story.
So
I started.
how long have you been in the industry now?
It's in May was 23 years.
Wow. Okay. And you started in mortgage, or you started investing in real estate? How did you?
I'm doing the same thing for 23 years.
Okay.
A commercial mortgage broker. I tell people I'm a trusted advisor. You want to get an honest answer? I'll tell it to you.
Okay.
So I've been doing it since in 1997
Wow.
is when I started, and I've been doing it since then till now. And I just just different roles within the companies. But
Right.
that's where it started.
Right. And yeah, I'm gonna call you after the podcast. Of course, I need some opinion.
You can ask it here.
Yeah. Right. That's true. So yeah, and we may, right? So how did you? So I was reaching out to you for the podcast interview, and I found out that you were able to generate a lot more business even when all of this is happening. So
The
I
sound
wanna.
just went down. The sound just went down. So
Oh, my sound went down.
yeah,
Okay. Can you hear me now?
I hear you. Perfect. Yeah.
Okay.
See, we're human. We're human.
Yes.
System goes down. We continue.
So how did you generate more business when the marketplace shut down?
So most people, as soon as they hear fear, they're scared of change. They just cringe back up and they do nothing.
Right.
I use this opportunity to jump on things I may have pushed off and neglected and didn't want to deal with change. And I said, if this is the new world, let me jump onto the new world. So I've been planning something for many years. I thought that we'd probably implement that change in a couple of years from now. And it's always like the risks, should you do it?
Right.
And COVID seemed to be the perfect time. I made a change in the pricing model, a part of a big segment of my business. And at the same time, because COVID created a huge opportunity. Look, we're sitting here now doing a podcast and a Zoom. And
Right.
I'm sure that pre-COVID, when you called someone, can we do a Zoom call together? What's Zoom? How do I got to get it now?
Right.
Everyone knows what
Yeah.
Zoom is, you know? So
Yes.
because of that, um, I was able to change my hiring. I wasn't constrained by the four walls of my location. So I
Yes.
was able to start hiring again and people anywhere in the United States because all the technology, the CRMs are all anywhere. So I was able
Yes.
to go through major hiring and I did a big internship program. So I hired on average about 10 to 12 people a week, put them through a training program, new salespeople. And then in July and August, I had an internship with 500 college kids. So the reason I was able to do 500 kids is because the same training, like I'm talking to you now, doesn't make a difference how many people are listening. So I set
Right.
it up as an internship that way, and I just, using technology, I was able to scale it up. So things I was on the fence, should I do it? I jumped in instead of waiting, and thank God we did it at the right time. Now as COVID is slowly, stabilizing, we're coming to a point where I'm able to capitalize on all the new hires and their
So
production.
that is very interesting. And so even before, and I'm just yeah, I don't know how it worked, but before those kind of trainings, you may have had to have people on site. Now they can even get
Correct.
trained at home, sitting in front of Zoom, right? So that's a big change in a lot of the industries now. Uh,
Totally.
but it's very interesting when you mentioned that you were hiring 10 to 12 people or training, and then you had like 500 kids during this time when most of the businesses were struggling to stay afloat and they were letting people go.
So by the way, we were struggling to stay afloat also. It's just that I looked at the staff. Business went down 90% the first month. But I looked at the
Okay.
staff and I said, listen, like I said, as an Orthodox Jew also and a believer in God, is that we get everything from God. So if we have now the time and the opportunity, what could we do to give back? And the people worse off. So I told my staff, let's go. Like we also got involved in PPP loans. We brokered over
Nice.
10,000 of those loans. So I told the staff, you have time anyway. I'm not getting rid of you for a certain period of time anyway. Why don't we use this time and pay it back? So we're
Yeah,
able to
you
get
got to
back.
pivot, right? You got to
Correct.
figure out another business model and then
Right.
yeah, take advantage of whatever you have in front of you, right?
Right.
Now that's interesting. So what steps did you take? Because you mentioned that you had planned something a couple of years ago and you have been pushing back. So what steps did you take to get to that
So
place?
I have a great story that someone told me, a great storyline. I use it always in my business. That I'm going to keep it short for the time, but the gist of it is that um, ExxonMobil, the executive had a retreat, and he asked each executive to write a business plan. If oil went to $50 a barrel, it was at 50. If it stayed, if it went to 80, if it went to 20,
Right.
and they each wrote back business plans, and he had three business plans, one for each direction. Put it back in his drawers in the 1950s when the oil embargo came in the 1970s. He and oil went up to $80 a barrel. They had a business plan what to do. When it went down to 20, they had a business plan what to do. And when it stabilized at 50, so they were able to operate. They always had a plan, the what if. So 5 years ago, I knew one day technology is going to replace a big part of my business. It's going to change my business. So I had all the different scenarios planned. This scenario, COVID, sped up that process, and I said, okay,
Right.
instead of waiting for it, let me snap and take it up from there.
That's interesting. So so you already had that plan. Did you have to change any of your processes to make
Yeah,
that plan work? And
one
how
1,000%. No,
and
that
how did
actually,
that go?
no, during the COVID, everyone's amenable to change, right? Because people
Yes.
are nervous about their job. So to a certain extent, I even this risk was a big risk because aside from COVID, 35% of my producers from last year that produced 35% of my business left because they said, Ira, we don't like this new plan. I said, but you're
Wow.
living short term. I said, listen, this is the future. You can't make a decision for 1 year. You have to have a 10-10-10 horizon. How are you going to feel in 10 weeks, 10 months, 10 years? You have to go out longer. So they were
Right.
short-lived. So I took a big risk, but also made changes. But everyone was willing to adapt because of COVID. So it was the right time to get everyone on board to change. Normally, if you have a new idea, you get a company to change, it takes 6 months.
Yes.
6 months became microwaved, instant,
So another interesting, it reminded me a book called Who Moved My Cheese? I
Yeah,
don't know if you
exactly.
have, yeah. So when I was working as an IT engineer, one of our vice presidents, she gave the book to every employee because we were going through a lot of transition and we
Yeah.
were moving through, moving a lot of the processes
That's
online.
exactly how I feel and I tell people all the time.
So, so what happened when you were going through the changes in this processes? Did those guys leave, or did those guys decide to stay? And you were able to still hire more people?
No, no, those right away in the beginning, I made the move on the company's 19th anniversary on May 17th, and a group with their staff of 12 people left, but they were some of those 12 were the top few in the company. So they made a
Oh,
decision to leave. But like I said, I made a decision when I started the business. I will never let Netflix, I would never be Netflixed out of my business. I will never be Uberized out of my business.
right, right.
So I
Yeah.
always wonder why I studied why did Blockbuster and
Yes.
Hollywood Video go out of business, and I understand the reason because while they're in their business, they say, who says the new Netflix is going to be successful? So I should guarantee lose money now. I made a decision to leave millions of dollars in fees on the table in the belief that the world is changing anyway, and I want to be living in 5 years and thriving in 5 years, as opposed to
Right.
milking it for the next 5 years. So the brokers didn't see it that way. They looked at it right now. But 90 days later, I graduated through my training program, 26 brokers, 12 of them already tied up deals at the highest success rate of new employees ever. So the Zoom
Oh, wow.
training, virtual work off the charts. And now we're actually building a boot camp to be able to allow anyone, any college kid, all year round a virtual internship where they get a scholarship for the cost. They just have to pay the technology fee, like $25. And the goal is onboarding the whole year. So someone says, I want to taste real estate. What's it about? We perfected a 21-day, 15-day boot camp where you put your energy 15 days and you get it done. So my goal is to bring 10 people a week through that training. And if they're successful, I guarantee to hire them and give them a commission to draw on things along those lines. So that's what we perfected, and technology is amazing. I mean, we could scale up these numbers. The virtual internship was amazing to me is that we thought about it on a Sunday. It was up and running by the next Wednesday with 500 kids. We couldn't have done this without technology, without COVID mindset and all these different things.
Right. No, that is amazing. And also what you're doing is great. Means getting those kids out of college and getting them trained on real estate and mortgage industry. I
Right.
think that's the way to go. Because we have been always taught, and again, I'm talking the rich dad, poor dad language, that we now need to study, we need to get a job, blah, blah, blah. And I think education is very important, but then also, understanding how the finance industry works, mortgage, real estate, because, even if you're working at a job, you've got to be able to invest in real
Exactly.
estate, right? So that, you can have your passive income, multiple streams of income, etc. So do you do this internship only for US based kids,
Now,
or have you
wor-
started
worldwide.
really?
Worldwide. The only issue is that if they're not a U.S. citizen, they cannot continue past the internship because I can't pay them a commission. I can't pay them.
Ah,
So
right.
that's the only restriction I have. But it was totally worldwide, literally worldwide.
That
Following all
that's
over the world. It was
that's
amazing.
unheard of.
Yeah.
And then you were able to do this during the COVID time, right? So what was the process, or what was going through your mind when you thought about this, that
But, I,
how are you
but, I,
going to ramp it up?
but that was very easy. So this is really where the godsend came back to us, is that you do a good deed, you get paid back.
Yes.
We did the summer thing, and I turned to my partner and I said, listen, we just hired 50 new brokers. So whatever we train for them, we have that going. If someone wants to be on Zoom, it doesn't make a difference how many extra people are on Zoom. We have a Slack communication internally, put extra people on. But we said, let's create a curriculum. Let's create every morning at 10 o'clock. We'll give a different topic of real estate, be videoed, followed by question and answers. Again, once we're preparing it, doesn't make a difference how many people join. We did something in the afternoon, same idea. We recorded everything. We added to a library. Because of this, we realized, something, we have a boot camp now. This is allowing us to now do it that literally we could take 1,000 kids a month. There's no
Right.
difference. Every month, take a new 1,000. We could put things through a system that way. So God paid us back in that we did something for this, helped that core business, and now we have this automatic system. If you would call me up and say, you have a son or a daughter that she already graduated. This thing may go into real estate. Could she try the real estate business for a few weeks? It never existed. Now I can say, yes, 21-day boot camp. I created from this so I did it to help them out, and really, it turned out that I got helped in a much bigger way.
That is a really amazing, and I really appreciate what you are doing.
Yeah.
So, and how does it work? So the kids or whoever reaches out to you, they get a login, and you take them through the process. And is it
Right.
online, or you are training them, or it's recorded videos?
So no, so right now, it's all live. Now we're
Oh,
doing
wow.
recording. But what's going to happen starting in another couple of weeks is that it's going to be a hybrid. Every day, I will be on a call answering their questions around a round table. They'll be communicating on the Slack channel with any of the senior staff in the office. And we're going to do the education now going forward. They'll watch the video and they'll be told, watch it by 2 o'clock today. And then the presenter will be on for question and answer. So there's really no difference if it's live or this, but the live effect that's relevant for today, the question and answer will be there. So
Nice.
you get the training with the current events, because if today something happens like whether Trump is going to win presidency or Joe Biden's going to win, and things are going to change in the marketplace depending on who wins and loses, the real estate is not changing, the fundamentals. What's changing is how banks are looking at deals now. If rates go up a little, so this way they'll get the benefit of that, and the whole thing is 21 days. So they'll also make cold calls, they'll answer the question. So it's set up where, again, I couldn't do this without technology. Couldn't do this without systems that are put in place to make this happen. So we're using the latest and greatest of technologies. And if someone just wants to watch as a fly on the wall, no problem. Just they wanted to watch their own videos at their own pace, knock yourself out. So the $300 is the fee, but we're not charging it to any college kids. And they just cover that technology licensing cost, because Slack charges, and we try to reach out actually. So one of your listeners have connections there. Why should his kids pay for a 1 month for Slack? To get an Eastern Gmail address cost me money, right?
Oh, okay. So they get the Eastern Gmail address. Okay.
Right. I give them the experience if they're working here. So you cover my deposit, and that's how I do it. The $300 fee that's my way of giving back. If someone, because I'm using really this boot camp primarily to train my own new staff. So the added people that only cost that $25 for college kids. So that's really how I'm developing in that type of format.
Yeah, that's great. I couldn't think of someone doing that. And by the way, you should have been the president of school, my daughter's school district. We are in San Francisco Bay Area, and most of the school districts are not able to figure out how to set up remote learning. And I'm like,
that's my brother's strength.
Come on.
Yeah, but my brother's the tech genius.
Yeah, and I'm from IT, right? Being an Indian, not to be racist here, but that's weird that we are in San Francisco Bay Area and the school districts cannot figure out what technology.
So you gotta help them.
If they would listen, right? But not to go off tangent here. So in last 6 months, you are able to then, start doing all of this, the virtual training, etc., boot camp, as well as grow your business at the same time. How did you end up doing that, right? What did you have to do? Like, did you need not sleep for a week or two, or how did you?
That's the same. By the way, that's the same thing. I don't sleep on the Sabbath. I'm not using my phone, so I get to think. I get to pray. Right. I'll tell you another interesting statistic. Another thing interesting thing about me. During my COVID, how you doing it? I haven't walked into my office since March 12th.
Right.
So this whole thing happened from my house or traveling.
Oh wow.
So I'm quasi self quarantine throughout the whole process. So.
Right. And what would you do differently? In the last 6 months, what you have seen, and if you can tweak things. What would you do?
It's not so much that I would have done differently, is that because I'm always a student of business. I always listen to, I always review the data, the metrics. So it's tweaking. So some things I could maybe have gone one step earlier and fixed it, and some steps too. But many of the things I only got to this point because I went down the path. Like I said, I did a summer internship because I was already hiring people, and I record sessions for the next when I have to train more people anyway. Now I got it recorded. Because of that, so it's not like you could have done. This wasn't planned. I didn't think. If you would have asked me when I started, would I be sitting here today hiring 10 to 12 people a week for sales, plus having a year-end virtual internship? I would have said no. But this allowed me. I kept watching the metrics and the opportunities, and allowed me to really say. And when we did an exit poll to those college kids for the first month, the reviews were off the charts. They said they never worked in a company where they felt they were paying for such an expensive course. And even then, they're getting live access to the senior executives of the firm. I have presidents of a bank got up and spoke to them. They never had that access in their life, and they said, "Whoa!" Now they got a feeling how a culture. We broke $5 billion a year. They got that experience of being on the Slack channels with the 100 staff from my company, and they were able to ask them questions directly. and it's set up in a way, the culture in the office is helping people. So naturally they're going to help someone new. But also I incentivize the seniors that if they help someone new and that person brings in a deal, I'll give them part of the commission. In addition
Nice.
to so they're motivated to answer the question. They want the junior to say, you know, who's the best help? Blank.
Right. So now that you are at this point president of Eastern Union and you have been in the industry for a while, what advice would you give to your younger self?
So the advice I give to the younger self is that I read a book called Think Like Amazon. I read it about 2 years ago when it came out.
Okay.
Someone sent it to me. Biggest game changer for me.
Really?
I read that book. It explained to me everything I did in my life wrong, why it didn't work, and everything that worked, why it worked. And
okay. I got to read it.
Yeah, there's certain fundamentals in there that no exceptions. Like I said, don't read chapter 6, 7, and 12. Every chapter is on target. That's how Amazon built the third-party seller market. And it's amazing what metrics. And it breaks out to 50 ideas, and each idea is set out. So it's off the charts. So I found from that, you know, what I used to do is hire when I did a new division. Like the biggest thing for me personally I took away is I started a new division. I would hire, you know, I don't know if it's gonna work or not. So hire a couple people, no experience, see what happens, and get an idea. It was a mistake. His book is go the other way. Hire one person, very expensive. And then if it doesn't work, you know it wasn't possible to work. And if it does work, you can build around it. So that was the difference. That was one of the difference. That main change was the main change for me. See, as a company, I pay the top commissions and salaries in the industry. And during COVID, normally most companies, the top people are worried about their job. For me, it's the opposite. I'd rather keep the top through thick and thin.
Oh, yes.
They could. So, but when I start people, I start from the bottom up. So that's how I train salespeople. I realize when you're hiring people to run projects, you got to go from the experience down. And that's where my mistake was personally for me. But, you know, everyone has their one thing that works. But this book, game changer.
Awesome. I got to read it. I love reading books. So, yeah, I'm definitely going to buy it. Yeah, I got to. So what is your biggest failure so far, and what did you learn from it?
So it's not so much the biggest failure. It's the reason why I don't call it the biggest failure is because I learn from everything. So every day I analyze. So I come with ideas. I don't mind bringing new ideas out to market. But like the last example, the biggest failure was really in why projects didn't work. And I learned that when you start a new project, hire an expert in their field to start it off. When you start a new project, another thing was also is that I would call you up and tell you, hey, I have this great idea. What do you think? If you didn't like the idea, I wouldn't then listen to the details of things about why you don't like it. Meaning once I believe you didn't believe in it, I wouldn't then listen. And also, let me tell you a negative. And I changed. Now my approach is if I listen to somebody, I listen to the negatives, but I take it to the next level. And even if it's coming from someone who doesn't like my company, doesn't like what I'm doing at all, doesn't believe in it, and when they say something, I listen to every critique. Maybe I'm not to the goal of convincing them, but I listen to everything to myself. I said, okay, I look at this critique and say, do I have an answer if they're right? And I used to not even get that level. All these things were a game changer to me. That's
great. What is your biggest success and any lessons learned from that one?
So listen, if on a business level, thank God with the businesses today, right? That's my success, the business. But I'm most proud of really my life's mission is really to help people, give people jobs. And I get the luxury now with this new post-COVID. Like I said, my passion to bring 1,000 college kids over the summer is not because they can ever work for me. You know, well, a couple out of the 1,000, most of them are going on to wherever they're going to. But I get genuinely to be able to pay it forward. I was able to learn from somebody. How can I pay it forward and help people that I meet? I love to meet someone in 20 years. They say, Ira, my first job, I met this big attorney in New York. Says, Ira, just remember my first summer job in college, I worked by you. He's like a major real estate lawyer, transactional real estate lawyer in New York. So when I meet people that are successful, even not in the real estate space, but they started here, they got that foundation, they got the experience. Like most college kids never had the access to successful people. So they get the ability to come to an office, meet my brokers, and direct talking to them. They realize, hey, they're just a human just like me. That barrier is broken. They realize, and from there they get more confidence and they take the rest of the career where they can take it to. So for me, that's my biggest success is how many people I was able to influence and start off their careers.
Yeah, and what you are doing is amazing. You are not only just giving them launch pad. Not only you are training them, but you are, what I can say is you are mentoring them. And that's amazing. Usually it's very hard to find, mentors who would spend time with you. Hey, so I want to talk about the mortgage industry now. Where do you see the industry heading over the next 12 months? I see the rates have been correcting. All my friends have been refinancing that mortgages. Of course, you do commercial, but I'm more talking about residential. But overall mortgage industry, what do you see?
So I think that interest rates are going to stay until after the presidency, irrelevant to who wins. I think the rates are going to stay roughly where they are.
Okay.
I do believe that rates will go up starting next year as a blend of, there'll be certain losses banks are going to be taking from something.
Yes.
Most people are out of work. They're running on stimulus. They're running on fumes. At what point what time's the fumes cut off? So when that happens, there's losses, then I think that rates will have to go up to cover some of those losses. And I also think inflation has to come. Something has to give. This doesn't make sense.
With this much amount of money being dumped in the economy, literally I see the dollar losing value every day. There has to be inflation.
But people say compared to the rest of the world, it's still the safest. Who knows? It's way above my pay grade.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But I think that next year already, I think rates will start moving up. I think,
okay. I hope so. I wish they have to. We can't be staying here forever. Okay, so let's take a quick break, Ira, and after the break, we'll go through my regular questions, which I ask every guest.
Okay.
Back. Welcome back to Wealth Matters Podcast. Ira, are you ready for the fire round?
I'm ready.
Okay,
as ready
let's
as I'm going to be.
Would you be changing any business or investment strategy after coronavirus?
No, the answer is it's no from this point on. I made a change when Corona hit, so it's really in the past tense I made it like we discussed. But from this point on, the plan is to keep perfecting what we're working on now and take it as far as it goes.
That's great. Favorite real estate or finance or any other related book?
So like I said, once I read this, I don't have a favorite real estate book like that. I wrote a book myself. I wrote a book, I have a podcast on real estate. And it's
I got to read that book. I'm gonna ping you. I would need an autographed copy.
Yeah, so it's it's a downloadable. It's not even on Amazon. It's on it's on my site. So it's by Eastern Union. So we have an app. We have it on the Eastern Union site. So it's I wrote a book on real estate and we did a podcast. So just one season just goes through a real estate course of the whole real estate. So
nice.
But I believe that this Think Like Amazon book. I tell people no matter what you're going, even if you're a broker, you should read it. It teaches you to think how they built their business, how data analytics is affecting everything. It's going to keep affecting and keep making changes definitely over the next couple of years, a lot more.
Any tool or website you recommend? I know you mentioned Slack and Zoom. Anything else you have used for your?
So in the real estate field, again, the same theme to try to give back. We built an app. It's in the App Store, Eastern Union. It's an Eastern Union app. We spent a fortune of money to build. It has live rates, all the resource guide. We also built the only underwriting that in a couple of minutes you can underwrite a deal to the IRR, cash on cash. So someone wants to look at any calculations they could need for math, it's right there for real estate building. So I took what the resource existed in the world and I said, okay, what would I use myself? So when someone calls me, I said, what's missing from the industry? And I put it into the app that we have. So the Eastern Union app has it.
That's great. How do you give back?
So it's I was brought up that give charity. So give between at a minimum of 10% back to charity. Try to give 20%. I tell people you watch Shark Tank all the time. This guy comes up would rather own 80% of his business with the shark as a partner. I'd rather have God as my partner. So that's my, so that I try on my time to give back and be able to coach and mentor and train people if I can. So that was like I was saying before, I was able to do this on a large scale because of Zoom. I can mentor on a much bigger scale.
That is awesome. How can my listeners reach out to you?
So I'm going to go a little bit out of the box over here. I'm going to give you my cell phone number.
Oh, no.
Yes. Well, today, the reality is I rarely answer the new phone because I'm living in, most people don't really call anymore. It's much more Slack and email. So, but my number for WhatsApp is 917-597-2197. It's not my Google number. This is my number.
Yeah. WhatsApp means yes. It's in the number.
Saying that's one. And then I also have, and then LinkedIn. But I prefer email because because this way I can respond much quicker if I have to bring someone else on my team on. So it's IRZ, IRAZ, at easternunion.com.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much, Ira.
Thank you so much. Have a great
thoroughly
weekend.
enjoyed.
Appreciate
You
it.
too.
Thank you.
Bye.